that's just
Okay, with Virginia Duivenvoorden, she is the producer and writer of Kite, which is a dance film, really artistic. I like this film a lot. So congratulations. You're from the BC area, correct?
that's right. I'm living in West Vancouver, BC. I'm working a lot in Vancouver, BC, especially out of the dance center.
What is the? I saw in the film. There's a tower outside the window. What tower is that?
Yeah, so it was originally, I think, a Sears tower, maybe.
Okay.
Now I don't know. It doesn't have the old things that it used to have. Harbor View or
Okay.
Harbor Tower.
They changed the name for like money, right? Because they
Yeah,
whoever
whoever.
has the highest bid.
Yes, exactly. But it is definitely predominant on the Vancouver skyline. If you know Vancouver, you'll know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a mini CN Tower, or like the
Yeah.
East Coast people will call it that, right? So
Yeah, and you can go up there and take the elevator and there's observation. You can see the city from up there.
so tell me about this film. You said you wrote the idea or wrote the script for like tell me about like coming up with this kind of concept for this film.
Sure, yeah. So it wrote itself in a lot of ways because I it was an open-ended project that I started. The kind of seed of the idea was way back in 2021. I had some photos done in 2020. And one of the photos I was wearing a black skirt and I had the tulle and I absolutely loved the photo. So I was like, I want to make a piece that connects to this photo. And so I became interested in the idea of kites, the idea of like flight, but still being connected.
Mhm.
So I entered into it with a sort of open-ended thing. I want to explore kites in the movement that's involved with kiting, the history of kites, as well as making kites. And then what my process was in building the dance was to do those things and then create the story from what happened while we explored the kites. And some of it just wasn't very successful. And there was different reasons for that, like getting the kites flying, whether it was the weather or how the kites were made or who was flying them.
Yeah.
It just totally didn't go the way I planned. So that kind of folded into the film, and it that's how the story sort of wrote itself. It became this metaphor for the dealing with life's disappointments and challenges, and then still getting back up again, and
Mhm.
trying again and going for it again.
It's also the quality of the kite too, right? It has to be like nice quality. From my
Exactly.
experience at least. Yeah.
Yes, like you have like there's a whole technique to the kite. Like
Yeah.
I just tried making them. It was a lot harder than I thought,
Sure.
you
Yeah.
know? And like I didn't know this about Vancouver. It's not a windy place. I kind of thought we're coastal, but it turns out we're not actually that windy, like compared to some other places. And then I also found about geographically, there were points in the city that were the windy points. That's where people fly kites. So it just made me look at weather in a different way, like just how things are beyond our control in life. Like there's only so much that we can control. And so that for me was a metaphor too, with the weather. I couldn't control that. I could have all my students who participated, like, say, in the community part of this. We had a kind of community engagement piece with the creation of the dance. And so, yeah, with them, I wanted them to succeed in flying their kites. But on the day I had them, we didn't have winds. That was just completely beyond my control. So it was just really interesting how, sometimes we set out thinking how things are going to go one way and they don't go the way we think. But then something else comes out of it, maybe that you didn't expect. And that was that special thing in Kite was the discovery of something new by just persevering, by being resilient, getting to the next place. And that was part of the journey as well, just seeing the good things that came out of it. For example, like the kites that we made, they failed, but we made these windsocks and they were kind of like big and magnificent
Mhm.
and they were successful. They were beautiful. And so that was totally unexpected. And that's something that I'll have forever that I could make with whether it be community or students. Because I kind of have a 360 to my art approach, to the visual arts, to making things, and then also to the movement, to the dance. So that's how the story developed. I hope that answered the question.
But it was a stage piece first, right?
Yeah,
Like it was on stage, and then you,
exactly.
according to your blog, you wanted to perform it because you knew the story. But then there was like physicality or whatever, and then you brought in a collaborator, Brynne, right? So she's the person in the film.
Yeah, so Brynne was dancing the stage piece as well.
Yeah.
And so we had performed the stage piece indoors once, outdoors twice. We did it as an outdoor performance. And so we had a shape of a piece. It was about double the length of the film. And so I was working on another film set, actually. It was a short film called Binky. And I was doing choreography, and I decided to be part of the crew. I said, I'll do anything. I just want to be on set the whole time you're doing this short film, because I was trying to learn. And so while I was on this set, everybody that was on crew was also a filmmaker. It was kind of this community where I'll work on your film, you work on my film.
Yeah.
And so I was in this community all of a sudden, and everyone was pitching behind the scenes. So when I went home that night, I thought to myself, well, I should go back in and I should also pitch what I'm doing. And so I had film elements already in Kite because projection was a part of the stage piece. So I was transporting her from the stage to different places. Already that idea was in my mind. So when I pitched Kite, I said, this is about, this dancer that wants to fly. And I had all the imagery from the stage piece. And so it was Jerry that was backstage also on crew, Jerry Trieus, amazingly talented, emerging director.
Yeah.
And so he and I clicked behind the scenes of Binky. And then it was just a few weeks later, we actually just started Kite and started the film. And we had our own kind of process. It was a longer process than maybe like Binky was done in 3 days. But our process was like maybe about 6 to 8 weeks.
Well, you didn't shoot consecutively, I'm assuming.
No,
No.
that's what I think is interesting. We had a practice where we were shooting pretty much every Thursday because the dancer was our kind of one professional paid person. And we had to have her performing at a, peak dance ability. So we thought like about a 3 to 4 hour shoot would be good for a dancer, keeping warm and doing all the jumps and the difficult movements that are in Kite. So we would do that on Thursdays. And then prior to Thursday, Jerry and I would meet and we'd have a rehearsal. And so I would do the movement that Brynne was doing. And then Jerry rehearsed the camera.
Gotcha.
So then when we got together on Thursdays, boom, we knew what we were going to do. We placed Brynne in it. And then we had to go at what we wanted to get done that week. It did bring challenges with continuity, having those gaps,
Yeah.
because you can't change the face or the looks or, please don't cut your hair, those
I was
little.
gonna say she's got to look the same, right? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
it was tricky.
yeah.
But we managed, and like remembering every little detail, it's more difficult because you've got more time in between to kind of forget the things. But I think we really, we worked hard at that part of it. And we had a strong team because again, I was very fortunate to be in that community because the collaborators were also filmmakers. So each of my crew, I'm so thankful for them, Jared, Landon, and Ronald, they are all filmmakers and directors. And everybody just steps up to the plate to kind of support the other person's vision. So it was just a really fortunate situation that I had connected to this particular group of filmmakers, and in particular, of course, with Jerry, who did such a wonderful job with the camera and the direction.
Yeah, there's some. So, when you were doing the stage, when you came up with the idea, did you ever imagine that it was going to be a movie? Like, was that even in?
Yes,
Oh, so you
it,
always thought, okay,
it was because actually what I was after, and I didn't get it. It's interesting because it was a disappointment. I didn't get it. I wanted a good film quality done of Brynne so that we could have close-ups of Brynne on the big screen on the stage, on the projection screen, which we have a beautiful one at the dance center. And so that we have moments of her with the dance and moments of her with the close-up. And what I was interested in exploring at that time was I want the close-up so that the audience can relate to her journey and get closer to her and feel more with her. And I didn't achieve it. I ended up having, for that, I had some background, I had some sky projections, but the film of Brynne, I didn't get it done in time for the stage piece. So it was on my mind. I need to get her filmed in close-up before we did Jerry's direction and version, I guess the version that we collaborated on. And what he brought to it was he was specifically focused on short form narrative. So we brought the two together. The stage piece condensed into that shorter form, and really just picked out the highlights of the story. So yeah, it was just how this process built. The other thing that really helped is that Brynne's performance is so wonderful because she had been doing it for 2 years. It's not like we just came down to the beach and said, hey, just try this movement. No, this was a movement that she had been perfecting, practicing, and doing for already a couple of years. So there was so much depth there with her quality, even though
it's almost like when someone does like a theater production and then they do the movie, right? Like, where they just go from they're doing Mamma Mia for like a year and then they just go do the movie, right? So it's like they got it in their head, right? They know everything. They know the rhythm, right? So that the tone, yeah.
And we had this character that like Brynne was a strong collaborator as well. Like she brought something to the character that I had never really thought of before, you know, the way that she played with the cloth. Sometimes it had like a bit of a clown or a street performer feeling to it. And she just brought her, for me, when I work with dancers, I like to give that space in that room for them to bring a little bit of their personality to the movement.
Yeah. So you're collaborating, you're not just like a basically choreographer where like you do the moves, you do like you basically like to collaborate with the dancer, right? So
I do. So I have different ways that I might do that. For example, with Brynne, I would give her the blocking, but not necessarily the steps. You know, I want you here on this point at this point and this.
You got to trust your dancer if you're going to do that, right? So,
well, what's amazing is, you know, Brynne's an amazing artist. So then she would give me something, you know, I said, yeah, I need more of that. And I need more of that. And then I also had like vocabulary that for me was very specific to Kite, which was kind of a flight-based movement that was actual choreography that I gave to her. Plus as well, like things that we developed with the tulle and different thematic things that were important to me. Like you see her lifting her arms a lot. And we called that the Vitruvian Man because it was all about like Da Vinci and kind of like measuring the body and like, okay, how big am I? What's my mass? Like where my arms are that I'm actually, you know, in my Vitruvian fullness of my human body kind of thing. So there was all these depths behind each pose, I guess, if you want to call it that, or each movement had a lot of depth behind it. And so there is a lot of that, her rising and then her efforting to get launched, you know, to get the flight. So there's a lot of that kind of movement in there.
So tell me about the post-production. Like you did the shoot. Were you like, I'm assuming you're deeply part of the editing experience?
I was all new. Like that would be a huge challenge, right? I had not really the experience of putting anything together.
Yeah.
Jerry had put at least a couple of films that he'd already done. But we had to do a lot of negotiating, like around the music, because obviously for a dancer, the music is, you know, so important. And so we couldn't bring forward the music from the stage piece because of different copywriting issues. And so I wanted a composer just to compose a piece of music for us. And I was open to a response as well from the composer. And I found Sarah on Facebook actually. Look, she's like, I want to work with somebody to do something. And I'm like, okay, I was like, I need a composer right now. I need somebody to make music and pull this together for me. And so when we had the different versions of the music from Sarah, it wasn't necessarily what Jerry might have chosen. In terms, and whereas for myself as a dance artist, we are used to having a little bit of distance between music and dance. Like we like that the dance can stand alone, the music can stand alone, and different ways of looking at the music. So that was careful negotiations in order to kind of put that through and push through what I really wanted to see. But I really do think that Sarah's music is a big part of the success of the film. How she brought another layer, like
Yeah.
she brought her view to it. So it created just another dimension. And so I think that we had to, step carefully through that. I had never done that before. I had, brought in the composer. And I think when we put Sarah's music on there and Jerry could see it together, then he took it away and said, okay, I'm going to fix it up. And we had to get the Foley sound that Brynne makes. That was on a completely separate day, separate recording. So there was many layers that had to happen.
Yeah.
Many edits, many versions.
Yeah.
And to come to a point where you can say, we have peace with it. We have to have peace with what we shot. We can't go back and shoot that piece and more of that. There's, for me, maybe there's things that I look at like where I think I could have worked that a little bit more.
Sure.
Or maybe Jerry sees things that he wished he got, that shot. But you have what you have, at the end. And so I really feel like the post-production was longer and more difficult than I expected. But then the end result is just so much more than what I could have hoped for. And also like being a part of this, being with you and being with Wild Sound TV and being part of the festival, the experimental dance music. And then, it's just an honor to be even included in this platform, So for me, it's been amazing, like the highs and lows, just like kites, like sometimes you're soaring, sometimes you're in the tree.
Yeah. But
But
sometimes you can't get off the ground, right? So yeah.
there's no wind, right? So yeah, it's been a wonderful experience. Post-production was hard, but I'm sure it is. I don't know what it's like for many other people, but it's got different challenges that I didn't know about.
That's it's like a film school for you. The post-production seems like all the moving the parts, and you want to get it right, right? It's like especially the sound design, like the sound design of music. You got to get it right. You want to make it as right as you can, right? So
Of course. And, to get it perfect is not always going to be possible, right?
um,
But to get it perfectly good,
yeah.
you can do that.
Well, there's like the cliche saying is that you don't finish a film, you abandon it because it's like you got nothing else. You can't do anything more, right? So
Yeah.
you got to move on.
At a certain point, you have to say, yeah, okay, I've taken this as far as I can
Yeah.
take it. And this is where it is. And this is where it's going to live and breathe, because like a dance piece, each time you perform it, you could up the game, change it, but the film it's a complete thing, encapsulated in time. It's beautiful that way. And I really was, thrilled that to have achieved that, to gotten to this place with it, is certainly more than I could have hoped for. It just was, I think, things coming together and the time that I spent behind the scenes on other films, I think that did make a difference for me.
So would you do it again?
100% I would do it again.
Are you going to do it again?
I hope so. I have actually done it, another collaboration with Jerry.
Okay.
We did so after this, it was like a lot of like working for free for one another. Let's just be
Sure.
honest there. So one of the things that I was able to do for Jerry was act in another film that he was doing. I'm a dance artist, but I have an acting background like way back, and
Yeah.
I love to act. I think it's so much fun. So I was able to do that and be the lead actor in his film that he did right after Kite. I'm also a producer on that film, but we're in post-production still on that one. So I am in the middle of, producing that as well. And then I have the idea that what I'd like to put that footage of myself in that film, maybe together with another stage piece. So again, do the, going hybrid with live and film. Love that exploration. Would love to do that some more. And I'm kind of in the gestation phase of a new idea that maybe I could take from seed straight to film, and not worry about the stage process and just, so I've got kind of a story that's gestating that could potentially be a film.
Gotcha. Well,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because I have a feeling you'll do it again, right? So basically, because it's yeah, I like this. This film's fantastic, and she's
Oh,
great. Like but she's great. Like
yeah.
Brynne is has a real stage presence. So because she's really with herself, right? Like she's trying to make. Of course, it's your choreography. It's the great direction, but it's at the same time, it's like she's she's got to convince the audience that there's a story here, right? By her actions. So basically, and she pulls it off. So
I 100% agree with you.
yeah.
Like Bryn's performance is a huge part of the success of the piece, the stage piece as well, and this, the what she brought to it is just beautiful.
Well, I wish you the ultimate best success with this film, and I hope it serves you well. And I'm assuming we'll talk again when you make your
Wonderful.
next film.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been an honor to meet you and just chat with you today. And yeah, all the best and many thanks.
Right back at you.